If you're like I was, and you're like the women in my community, then you most likely have been on a diet for what feels like your entire life. And what happens is, and I can go more into the psychology, today what we're really going to talk about is why you've been yo-yo dieting, what's really going on psychologically, and what you can do about it so you can get the weight off and have it really happen quite easily. At least that's how my clients experience it. That's how I've experienced it. I've maintained my weight. I don't have a thyroid, and I'm 45 years old, and I want to help you do the same so that, again, you can put your energy towards your dreams, not diets, so you can become who you've always wanted to be. I never want your weight to hold you back, and I know that it did for me, and I don't want that to be you. So let's go. Here's the thing. It's never about the weight. When we really look at this, and you may have heard this before, what I want you to think about is, I want you to think about what was the earliest memory that you have of yourself. Right now, take out a pen and paper and ask yourself, what was the earliest memory that you remember of yourself where you saw yourself in the mirror and you didn't like what you saw? Now think about that. What was your earliest memory? Now, what age were you? And here's why. My earliest memory was I wrote in my diary that I wanted to lose 10 pounds when I was 10. And I remember writing this with like this Crayola thing and like a striped diary. And I sat there and I remember looking at myself, and it makes me so sad because at 10, I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And I know that I was not significantly overweight at that time, but what it meant was I had already disconnected from my highest self, from the version of me that never saw anything wrong with me, and had now separated. Now, why is that important for you to know? When you took a moment to think back to your earliest memory, and if you still need to, pause this video and come back. I like to put people into action in these videos so that you're actually walk away when you're done having accomplished something and getting something out of it, right? So that we're not just ingesting. But I really want you to think about that. Why the age is important is psychologically, our subconscious mind stops forming, they say at the age of 8, and there's more scientific research that's been done that says it's more around the age of 10. But the scientific research for young girls is that at the age of 10 is when we start to separate from self and start to look at ourselves through a critical lens. We're aware of our bodies, we're aware of our sexuality, we're aware that our body's changing and that there's judgments being placed on us. We're familiar, and if you're an intuitive or an empath like me, then you start to pick up quite early on other people noticing you, judging you, what your mother says, and so on and so on. We're going to do another video about mothers and generations and lineage and cellular, all of that. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to follow because that's it's going to blow your mind what I share with you. But today, what I want you to understand is by age 10, you're viewing yourself through a critical lens. Now, if you're viewing yourself through a critical lens, remember the lens in which we see ourselves through is a combination not of what we think of ourselves, but of how society sees us, culture, what our mothers have said, what our fathers have said, what our teachers say, what our siblings say, what our friends say. And then we've made that at that point in our lives become an identity for us. So we often separate from self. And I really want you to think about that first age in which you saw yourself and you said, I don't like what I see. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What was that story? Was it, I'd love to just know your story. I want to hear from you. I shared mine with you. And I did have a critical lens placed on me as a young girl about how I was supposed to look, what my weight was supposed to be like. As an Italian, I'm half Italian, half Irish. You know, you're supposed to look pretty, smile, and not really say much, and look a certain way. And that was highly placed upon me. And I really tried to conform to that as much as I could and really separated from my power in that process. I'll share more with you in a future video about my story. But, you know, it's really, really important that you first understand that first memory. And many will say, when I talk with my clients about this in depth, they'll go, oh, I've always just been overweight, or I don't really have a memory, but there is a memory. And don't discount your power by saying, I don't know. When we say, I don't know, we disempower our higher selves from coming through. intuitively to tell us what it knows to be true for us for our healing. Okay, so that's really, really important for you to know. So when you say I don't know, it discounts your intuitive, your higher self from looking for that guidance. Your subconscious mind stops seeking it because you've already now disempowered it with the statement I don't know. So really sit with this and allow yourself to get into that. It's important for you to know the root of when it started. It's not so we can live there. I'm not one of these coaches that believes you have to go back into the past and live there in order to get to, no, but we do just want to understand what was the root, like what was that belief system, when did it start, so that you can now go, okay, so now that we've identified what was that for me, I want you to think about, when did food come into the equation for you? So often that first memory, that separation from self, that personal identity has to do with something that was experienced culturally for us in our environment and society. So maybe your friends were all a certain size and you weren't. Maybe your mother was more critical. Maybe you saw your mother always dieting and you started to think that you needed to, or she told you you needed to go on a diet. I was brought to Weight Watchers and I was like, what am I doing here? I don't understand, right? I was like 14 or something. And so I say that to you, and I'll get into my story at another date, but I really want to say to you, start to look at what was the influence and how did food tie into it. Often when we have spent most of our lives struggling with dieting, always wanting to lose 10 pounds, 5 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever it is, I always say it doesn't matter if it's 10 pounds or 100 pounds, the game is still the same. And it all comes back to a reliance on food to fill an emotional need that we never learned to fill ourselves, right? And so I really want to ask you, what was food like? What was the food dynamic in your household? So for instance, for me, I didn't know how to say, hey, I feel like you're putting me down and it doesn't feel good for me that I'm being called thunder thighs or bubble butt or other things. And it makes me feel bad about myself. So instead, food was love in my family, right? So what the mind does is the mind is set up for survival. It only knows what you've taught it, which means your mind's not going to take you to somewhere you've never been before. Now, the mind is set up for survival. We're animals by nature. What does this have to do with dieting? Well, when you're in emotional duress, sadness or pain within the body, your mind will go, we need to save her. We need to help her. We need to help her or him to not feel this sadness. And it will sift through the mind, right? I really want to give you guys analogies to help understand psychologically what's going on. It will sift through the mind to go, when was the last time we were happy? And how can we alleviate this sadness as quickly as possible? So we don't sabotage our success because we hate ourselves, or because we need more discipline, or because we need more willpower, or because something's wrong with us. We sabotage our success because we have taught ourselves to respond to duress in the body by using food. So the example is, and what I'm sharing with you is, the mind's now sifting and sorting, and it's going, oh, okay, ding, 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 ding. The last time we felt happy was at a birthday party or at our family dinner or at Christmas when we were with our family and we were eating blah, 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 right? And all of a sudden, you will find that there's a specific food or subsets of food that bring you relief. And when you're feeling that emotion, you will desire that specific food. Now, I also have another video on 2 types of cravings, head cravings and heart cravings. I'll make sure to link that here because that will be very helpful, because both of those cravings have different foods that you crave based off of those emotional needs. I'll speak into it briefly here, but if you want to dive deeper, I do have another video that I'll link. So what I was saying is, what happens is, say you have a bad day, you come home, and you get triggered and your boss says something that reminds you of the way that your father spoke to you. And all of a sudden you have a cellular response, a trauma response in the body that's going, hey, and you're feeling sad and all these uncomfortable things. Well, you learned, let's just say you zap back to age 10 like me, you learned at age 10 that when you felt that sadness, when you felt that ache, internally, that was too overwhelming for you at that age point to put words to and to learn how to soothe it outside of food, right? You didn't know. and your mind just goes, oh, let's alleviate this pain as quickly as possible. Let's have her go eat some cake, right? So now as an adult, you're feeling that exact same pain, right? And it's bringing you right back to age 10, and the brain is firing off and it's going ding, 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 ding. We need to save her. We need to help her. She's in discomfort. And it's having you go back and it's going, go get some cake. And this is how you will find yourself on autopilot, going to the grocery store, looking for Entenmann's, right? Do you guys remember Entenmann's? I mean, I know it still exists, but like that was like a big, the raspberry and like all the things. You will find yourself going for those specific things, and you will feel like you're on autopilot, like you have absolutely no power. You could have that cake in your fridge where you're like, I just told myself that I won't have cake. And you'll go right in and you will be eating almost like ferociously, and all of a sudden you'll put the fork down and go, what is happening? Right? Like your mind almost just caught up with you. And then you sit there and you feel so defeated, and the cycle happens. And then you derail yourself, and then you go, well, why even bother? I can't believe I just ate all that. And then you end up eating more. And then that one day turns into 1 week, which turns into a month, which turns into you self-berating and going back to another fad diet to then lose the weight, to then put it back on again and have the same cycle. So that's why I want to alleviate this. So let's go back to this. We identified what was the root cause, what was the age in which it started. 2, we identified, okay, what is the food that we go to that we often use to soothe? 3, we discussed why it's happening so that you understand why you feel like you're going on autopilot. Now let's talk about what to do in this moment, right? So here's the thing that I need you to understand, your mind. So for those of you that are new to me, I specialize in reprogramming the subconscious mind. I learned very early on that it didn't matter how much knowledge you had as a nutritionist, as knowing how to transform my body, as winning the INBF International Natural Body Federation Best Body Division. I gained the weight back, right? I was an ideal body coach. Like, you can have all the information in the world and I still put the weight back on. And I knew that it had nothing to do. I didn't need another diet. There was something else going on. I wasn't just, I was like, oh, I'm just doing what all my friends do, where we like starve ourselves and then we drink and then we eat everything in sight and that's just normal. No, it's not. So at the time there was only anorexia and bulimia, and now there's all these disordered eating, orthorexia nervosa. I've been in many camps and I've coached thousands of women around the world. I'm saying this to you so you know that you're not just getting this information from somebody who doesn't understand. I've been there myself and I've helped thousands, and I really want to support you. So here's the thing that I need you to understand. There's nothing wrong with you. You're amazing. But what I do want you to know is your mind only knows what you've taught it, and you've taught it that when you're in discomfort, you eat. You haven't taught it a new way. And if you did for a short period of time, it worked for a short period of time because you didn't change your identity, okay? We're gonna get into that a bit today. Now, what I need you to understand though is, in programming the subconscious mind doesn't know the words no or not. What does that mean? When you say, I'm not gonna eat the cake, what you're actually doing is directly commanding the mind to walk in the door and go straight for the cake. And that's why you could be in your car driving home going, we're gonna go home, we're not gonna eat, we're gonna go and change, and you'll find yourself in the kitchen going, what the F just happened? Like, I just said I wasn't going to do this. It's because you gave a direct program to the mind. The mind doesn't know the words no, not, and never. So really we wanna remove those from that vocabulary, just like we don't wanna say we're gonna lose weight. You don't want to, the mind's hearing, let's lose it, but then we need to find it again. No, we don't need to find it. We need to release the weight, and that's it. We're just released it. It's gone. It's gone. It's never coming back. But we're not going to say never, right? So that's a little tidbit that I need you to understand in reprogramming the mind. Now, here's what we want to do. I often, and I'm going to share with you a bit about head cravings and heart cravings. And like I said, you can go in depth on this in a video below. But head cravings and heart cravings, here's the primary thing. Head cravings stem from feeling a lack of control in your life. You often will want things that are crunchy, salty, chips, nuts, granola, cereal, even celery, carrots. You just want to crunch. You chew gum incessantly. You smoke maybe. Like your mouth, there's always an oral fixation. So my question to you is, what do you really want to chew on in life? Now, if you have a heart craving, this is from a lack of fulfillment. And a lack of fulfillment is what's missing in your life. Where are you feeling a void, either in your career or in your relationships, in your family dynamics, or even spiritually? Often the foods that you will crave with a heart craving stem from, like I said, a lack of fulfillment, but you will desire things that are decadent, indulgent, chocolate, creams, cheeses, wines, things that are rich in nature, right? And so those cravings are based off of an emotional need. Now, here's what I want to tell you. I used to blame myself deeply. And I see this in clients that come to me and they go through our Love Your Body, Lose the Weight program, our signature program, to truly, truly heal and release the weight. And I'll share more about that. We are doing a holiday sale for that. But if you're interested, it's below. But my point with this is, why I'm sharing this with you is, many will beat themselves up relentlessly, and they've done every diet under the sun, so they stop trusting themselves. They don't even trust that if they do another diet that it will work. The idea of even investing in themselves is like, why? In fact, many that signed onto our programs were like, I'm embarrassed to even tell my partner that I want to do another program because he's seen me or she's seen me lose the weight, gain it back again, lose the weight, gain it back again. They feel like a broken record. They feel like something's completely wrong with them. And many will say, I'm a success in all these other areas of my life, but this is the one thing that I haven't been able to figure out, and they feel like a failure. And if that's you, I'm here to tell you that is not true. It's not at all. This is just the last puzzle piece. This is the one thing, and it's truly about you knowing that you're worth it, knowing that this is just weight and it doesn't define you. That's what wholeness is, right? My entire business is around wholeness, coming back to the truth of who you are before you ever thought you were less than, whether due to a number on the scale, a trauma, or a limiting belief. And what I want you to understand is your weight is just weight. It's just a symptom of a lack of a connection to you. So I sat there and I had this big aha for myself where I said, I don't need another diet. What I need to understand is that I learned as I sat literally on my floor, on my hands and knees in New York City after I had binged on Quest bars, and I sat there and I said, what is wrong with me? Like, please just take this from me. Like, I'm so sick of feeling this way. I'm so sick of this battle with food. And what it was, because I felt crazy. I felt like I was crazy around food. I was either obsessed with thinking about it, obsessed with not eating it, counting my calories, heavily restricting. And I say this to you because I just want you to know that you're not alone. And if I did it, you can do it. And if thousands of women in my community have done it, you can do it too. It doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your size, it doesn't matter anything. But what I saw was I was in a relationship with food, and I was in a lack of a relationship with myself. And that was hard. That was really hard because on the outside, all I had done was work to create this image of perfection, where everyone would just be like, oh no, Melissa's so healthy and happy, and she's, a coach, and she does this, and she always looks like this, and inside, my inner critic was relentless. And my food thoughts and obsession around my food and what my weight meant about me was what controlled me. And I spent probably, I would say, like 88% of my day thinking about what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, what I did eat, what I didn't eat, what I looked like, what I want to look like. It was what other people thought of me. There was just no connection. And I say this because I really want you to understand that if you relate to that, I'd love to hear, put 100 in the comments below. I want you to know that you're not alone, and you're in the right place and in the right tribe. And what I want to tell you about this though is it's time for you to connect to you. It's time for you to come home to yourself. And it was me understanding, and it actually brought me so much peace to know that, wow, I'm in a relationship with food. Now let me explain what that means, because you might be going like, no, Melissa, I've lost the weight before. I would always have people go, I lost the weight on Weight Watchers. I lost the weight on this. And so it did work for me. And I go, but it didn't, because if it worked, you wouldn't have gained the weight back, right? Like if it worked, you wouldn't have gained the weight back. I did Weight Watchers too. I've done all the things. Like if they really worked, you wouldn't have gained it back. Even if it lasted for 6 months, even if it lasted for a year, there was something missing. And often what I know to be true is 1,000% of the time, what the missing component is you. And what I mean by that is love to yourself, connection for yourself. There's 4 C's that I teach: connection, compassion, commitment, and consistency. And those 4 C's are the foundation of many of my programs and what I teach, because it's necessary. You have to love you. But here's what I want to tell you that was huge for me. When I realized I was in a relationship with food, I said, well, I don't understand what I was getting this. I was like channeling this through, and I'm like, I don't what? And it was food had taken on human form for me. It didn't talk back to me. It was always there for me. It was the boyfriend that I didn't have when we broke up. It was there for me when I was lonely, when I was celebrating, when I was sad, when I wanted to Netflix, whatever it is, food was always there, and it added an element of joy. It added an element of something, right? And when I wanted to numb out, it just allowed for this escape. And I have many women, and maybe this is you, where they go, I'm happily married, I have beautiful children, I have a good career, but when I come home at night, this like thing pulls me where at 8 o'clock, no one needs me, and food doesn't need anything from me. And I just sit down with my chocolate or my ice cream or my cereal or whatever, and I just get to be. And I want you to think, as I'm saying these things, how is food connection for you? What is it that you get from food? Because here's the thing, if food, what I always say is, where there's lack, you will fill the gaps with food. If you're missing intimacy, connection to you, self-acceptance, if you're missing fun in your life, right? I always say, the more your life is full with you, the less you'll want the food. If you're missing companionship, if you're missing family, if you're missing feeling fulfilled in your career, if you're missing things, then food is filling that void for you. And here's why diets won't work. And here's why you've put the weight back on. Because if we don't fill the gaps, then we will inevitably revert back to our patterns with food. And that's what I want you to think about. So I would love for you to really, really look at your life and think about your life as a pie. And you've got spirituality, you have family, you have sex and intimacy, you have your health, right? You have your community, and you have your career. Where are you on those pieces of the pie? How full are they? Start to fill them in and look at that pie and see where it's deficient. And I guarantee where it's deficient is often when you end up craving food and foods that fill that need for you. So I hope this video spoke to you. I hope you found it helpful. I really would love to hear from you, and stay tuned, because I'm gonna have more videos every week to support you and diving deeper to truly understand what's going on for you, because what you don't need is another diet. This is your place to have a lasting solution, and for you to thrive in life in a body you love and become who you always know you've been meant to be. I'm here for you every step of the way, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and I meant to say, if you are interested in coaching with me or any of our programs to support in mindset, achieving your ideal body, healing your relationship with food, I have a multitude of programs. They're all listed below. We also have membership into my Limitless Academy, which is truly about mind, body, soul, spirit, and achieving beyond your dreams and elevating you to that. So we've got a bunch of things coming up, and Love Your Body, Lose the Weight is our program that is starting in the new year. I would love to see you there. All the links are below. Send me any questions. I'm here for you every step of the way. All my love.